Death and Daphne by Jonathan Swift. To an agreeable young lady, but extremely lang 1730. Lord Orrery gives us the following curious anecdote respecting this poem. I have just now cast my eye over a poem called Death and Daphne, which makes me recollect an odd incident relating to that nymph Swift soon after our acquaintance introduced me to her. As to one of his female favorites, I had scarce been half an hour her company before she asked me if I had seen the Dean's poem upon Death and Daphne. As I told her I had not, she immediately unlocked a cabinet, and bringing out the manuscript, read it to me with a seeming satisfaction of which, at that time, I doubted the sincerity. While she was reading, the Dean was perpetually correcting her for bad pronunciation, and for placing a wrong emphasis upon particular words. As soon as she had gone through the composition, she assured me smilingly that the portrait of Daphne was drawn for herself. I begged to be excused from believing it, and protested that I could not see one feature that had the least resemblance. But the Dean immediately burst into a fit of laughter. You fancy, says he, that you are very polite, but you are much mistaken. That lady had rather be a Daphne drawn by me than a Saccharissa by any other pencil. She confirmed what he had said with great earnestness, so that I had no other method of retrieving my error than by whispering in her ear, as I was conducting her downstairs to dinner, that indeed I found her hand as dry and cold as lead. Remarks on the Life of Swift Land, 1752, p. 126. Death went upon a solemn day at Pluto's hall his court to pay. The phantom, having humbly kissed his grisly monarch's sooty fist, presented him the weekly bills of doctors' fevers, plagues, and pills. Pluto, observing since the peace the burial article decrease, and vexed to see affairs miscarry, declared in council death must marry, vowed he no longer could support old bachelors about his court. The interest of his realm had need that death should get a numerous breed young deathlings, who by practice made proficient in their father's trade, with colonies might stalk around his large dominions underground. A consult of coquettes below was called to rig him out a bow from her own head. Magira, one, takes a periwig of twisted snakes, which in the nicest fashion curled like toupees, two of this upper world, with flour of sulphur powdered well, that graceful on his shoulders fell an adder of the sable kind, in line direct hung down behind the owl the raven, and the bat clubbed for feather to his hat, his coat a usurer's velvet pall bequeathed to Pluto corpse, but loath his person to expose bare like a carcass, picked by crows a lawyer o'er his hands, and face stuck artfully a parchment case. No new fluxed rake showed fairer skin, nor fillies after lying. With snuff was filled his ebon box of shinbones rotted by the pox. 9 spirits of blaspheming fops with aconite anoint his chops, and give him words of dreadful sounds, GDDN his blood, and BD and WDS. Thus furnished out, he sent his train to take a house in Warwick Lane 3. The faculty his humble friends a complimental message sends. Their president in scarlet gown harangued, and welcomed him to town. But Death had business to dispatch, his mind was running on his match. And hearing much of Daphne's fame, his majesty of terrors came fine as a colonel of the guards to visit where she sat at cards. She, as he came into the room, thought him Adonis in his bloom. And now her heart with pleasure jumps, she scarce remembers what is trumps, for such a shape of skin and bone was never seen except her own. Charmed with his eyes and chin and snout, her pocket glass drew slyly out, and grew enamored with her phiz, as just the counterpart of his. She darted many a private glance, and freely made the first advance, was of her beauty grown so vain, she doubted not to win the swain. Nothing, she thought, could sooner gain him than with her wit to entertain him. She asked about her friends below this meager fop, that battered bow, whether some late departed toasts had got gallants among the ghosts. If Chloe were a sharper, still as great as ever at quadrille. The ladies there must needs be rooks, for cards we know are Pluto's books. If Florimel had found her love, for whom she hanged herself above. How oft Awik was kept a bowl by Proserpine at Pluto's hole. She fancied those Elysian shades the sweetest place for masquerades. How pleasant on the banks of Styx to troll it in a coach and six. What pride a female heart inflames! How endless our ambition's aim, cease haughty nymph, the fates decree death, must not be a spouse for thee, for, when by chance the meagre shade upon thy hand his finger laid, thy hand as dry and cold as lead, his matrimonial spirit fled, he felt about his heart a damp that quite extinguished Cupid's lamp, away the frighted spectre scuds, and leaves my lady in the suds. Footnote 1. Magira, one of three Furies, beautifully described by Virgil, Aeneid, Roman 12, 846, W.E.B. Footnote 2. Periwigs with long tails. Footnote 3. Where the College of Physicians was situated at that time. See Cunningham's Handbook of London, W.E.B.